So you mentioned this medical implant a few times. Do you want to tell the story of what exactly happened?
Sure. How we go back?
So when did it start? Like when did
Yeah,
it start getting a little
yeah.
like what the heck's going on? This feels weird.
Yeah. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to tell you
Go
something
for it.
that a lot of people don't know, which is in my early 2000s. I'm really old, by the way. I'm like 100. But
100.
in I'm getting, no, you're like, really? No. Um, in my early 20s, back in 2000s ish, I was starting to like get really depressed. And I was diagnosed with a mental health condition and I got put on medication. None of this is relevant to my rare brain disease because the medication did not cause the rare brain disease. The medication caused me to gain a lot of weight. Okay.
Mm,
The weight is important. So I started to gain a lot of weight. Okay. Okay. So
mm,
I'm overweight. And at this point, I'm just gaining a lot of weight. The weight has nothing to do with the rare brain disease. Okay.
okay.
So I'm now overweight and I start to have vision problems. And I'm like, oh, I just really need a new pair of glasses. That's what's up. And so I go to the doctor and I go to the eye doctor, the regular optometrist, and they say to me, we are sending you to the ER right now. And I'm like, no, like that's not relevant. And they were like, no, you're going. And so I went to the ER. I go to the ER and I see a neuro ophthalmologist who's like, they do brain stuff for your eyes. And when I went, they said, you have this disease. It's called pseudotumor cerebri, which is basically a fake tumor. Your body thinks and acts like you have a tumor, and it's raising the pressure. We all have spinal fluid. It's raising the fluid in your brain. And so now you have extra fluid in your brain and it's drowning your brain essentially, and you're going blind. And I was like, okay, sounds good. And they were like, we're going to have to keep you here and see if we can remove the pressure. So they did a spinal tap. A spinal tap is where they go into your back with a needle to relieve the pressure. Now, based on how much fluid they remove from your back determines what they do next. So based on the amount of fluid they removed from my back, it was determined that I needed to have brain surgery to have a shunt put in. And so a shunt is like essentially just like a machine that goes in, and when your fluid gets too high, it drains off the fluid. So I got a shunt put in. Once that shunt was put in, I got super uber more depressed than ever. And I started to gain a crap ton more of weight. So then I got depression weight, but then I also got medication weight. So it was just like tons of just lots of weight gain. So that's important to this story because I got almost to 400 pounds with the combination of both together. Yeah. So I was really overweight. And so I was depressed all the time. My doctors were like, hey, get used to your life being like, you're not going to do anything except for be on medication. And this is your life. And I was like, all right, sounds good. And so when you're like already depressed and you have like a mental health condition, these two things together, plus you have this like rare brain disease, like my life as I saw it was just like, I just call that entire period just like a very dark period because one, I couldn't see. And then two, I was just really depressed all the time. And like, I never left my house. It was just horrific.
Did you not see at all?
I lost complete vision in my right eye and I was losing vision in my left
Oh
eye.
my God.
Okay.
For how long?
For forever. No.
Oh.
For about 9 years that went on. And every time the shunts kept breaking. So that shunt, it malfunctioned. Then I had to have brain surgery again. So it became like brain surgery after brain surgery. And then I would have to have another surgery because of the brain surgery. So it was just like, this is a lot. And then it was kind of weird. I just had this realization one morning where I was like, you know what? I was sitting in my apartment and I was like, if I'm going to be in pain, regardless of what I do, I'm just going to go outside. Like I'm going to go do, because I'm going to be in pain. If I stay at home, I'm going to be in pain. If I go outside, I might as well just go outside. So then I started to go places and started to like do stuff again. And when I started to do stuff again, I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel better. And then I had to have another surgery again. And I was like, God, my life sucks. And it was really crappy because I had to move back in with my parents. And I'm like, oh, I'm an adult. I don't want to move back in with my parents. And I had another surgery, but this one was kind of worse than all of them. And I say worse because like they had to cut my head in like 3 different places where before they were just doing like one. And so this one was like really horrific. And I was telling my dad, I was like, Dad, I don't think I can do this anymore. I'm getting really tired of this. And my dad every morning would like wake me up and then say, repeat after me. And I'd be like, okay, Dad. And he said, I can, I must, I will. I was like, all right, Dad. So I would say that. And then he would make me get dressed. And then he would drive me to the front of the housing, the vision. So like, it was like one of those newly developed properties. So he would drive me to the front. And because it was newly developed, they were making a park. And it was like a mile long from the front of the housing division to his house in the back. And what was in the middle was a park. And I was like, man, I'm not in the mood to like do this whole mile. So I would just stop in the park and like hang out there before I made it to the house. So I would walk every day and then just like hang out in that park. And at the time, I didn't put together that being in the park was making me feel better. I was just like, this is just a good place to stop. But then over time, I would like stop in that park, like bring my journal and write out things like, oh, this is a cool tree or whatever. And then over time, I got better. And then I went to a doctor and I was like, I really want this shunt just taken out because I'm having more shunts than I feel with anything else. So can you remove these shunts? And the doctor was like, I think you might be right. I'll remove the shunt. And I was like, thank you. Like a little bit. But then I was still having like residual headaches. And those residual headaches were still causing like symptoms of the pseudotumor, but not as frequent. And so I didn't need a shunt because it would just happen. So I would still need a spinal tap every now and then to relieve the extra fluid. And he was like, oh, and I had started to like work out a little bit. So I was starting to like walk more because I was walking in. So I was starting to lose a little bit of weight. And then he said to me, I'm doing this like kind of thing. It's called a neuromodulator. And I think you might do well on it. You have a 50-50 chance of doing good. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, And I was like, I'll try it. So I tried it, and this thing, like, it was like instant. I was like, holy crap, like, where did this come from my entire life? And it was like so dope that like 3 weeks after that, like ran like a 15K. Why?
Wow.
I don't know. It was like my first 15K. And then like I think it was like maybe like a few weeks after that 15K, I ran my first half marathon, and it was like, great. After that half marathon, a friend was like, hey, come with me. We're going to go do a cool down at this park. And I was like, that's stupid. I don't want to go to a park. Why would I go do that? It was a nature preserve. And I was like, I'm not going to go do that. And then I went, and I really found this tree that I connected with. And I know it sounds weird, but I found this tree, and I was like, I had this epiphany, like, oh, I'm like this tree. And she was like, okay, stop being crazy. And I'm like, no, look, this tree is planted in the ground. I'm grounded. Like, I'm hugging this tree, and I'm like, it's giving me oxygen. I'm giving it oxygen. It's like we're relying on each other. And now that we're having this conversation, I'm going to go hike this trail I heard about. And she was like, what the hell? And I'm like, no, I heard about this trail. I'm going to go hike it. And she was like, okay, where is this trail? I'm like, it's somewhere in the West. And she was like, okay. And then so like, that was in like October. And then I started the PCT that April. So that's,
Wow.
yeah. And I've lost like almost 260 pounds now. That's my life.
You lost 260 pounds.
Yeah.
Oh
Fun
my
times.
God. Oh my God.
I don't know why I felt, I don't know why I felt compelled to go back to I seldom ever tell people the mental health side of that story, but I feel like it's important to talk about.
No, for
mental
sure.
health. Yeah. I don't know. I think just being outdoors and walking and like starting to run, and then I can, I must, I will, like something about just,
I will. I can't.
yeah. Just, yeah.